Lobster exists as a dish surrounded by community involvement and state intervention. Unlike most fisheries in the United States, the lobster community has had a heavy political involvement when it has come to managing the industry. Historically, the Maine lobstering community has been regarded as the gold standard for establishing an initiative to govern and maintain the lobstering industry. The stability in these lobstering politics was rooted in the passing of many regulations as early as the 1870s. These laws set limits on things like the minimum size lobster you're allowed to catch to prevent overfishing, and specific lobster trap guidelines to prevent marine hazards. In response to what these state regulations have served to do, lobstermen have felt it necessary to create a political presence so that their voice may be heard and the industry may remain preserved. Recently, new Massachusetts state regulation has sparked controversy within the lobstering community. In 2020, a new law to protect right whales was passed that extended the closing of state waters north of Nantucket up until May 15th, as opposed to the traditional 3 months of winter. As you can guess, this was not what lobstermen wanted to hear, as many of them rely on this early spring period to start the fishing season. The industry unitement was immediate, and upwards of 5 well-crafted community letters have been sent to the state to offer potential repeals. Of course, no one wants to see an endangered species face unnecessary obstacles, but it is important to hear how this regulation has impacted the livelihoods of the people it affects. Let's hear from my father, a mass lobsterman since the age of 18. Can you tell us about the new policy on right whales and how it has affected your fishing?
The latest policy is we have to use weak buoy lines so the whales can snap them off if they get caught in them. And that's fine. But they're also putting in a springtime closure for all state waters that we can't put a trap in the water. And that really hurts.
How has the community publicly reacted to that?
It's hard to say. I would think we don't want to kill whales. Nobody wants to kill whales. We just want to go to work, just like anybody else.
Are people feeling upset?
Yes. Frustrated, anxious, angry. Yes, all that.
It is time to get cooking. Historically, lobster's roots began with Native American tribes who both ate and used them as crop fertilizer. They were typically baked by being wrapped in seaweed and laying them over a hot bed of rocks, a method of cooking that has inspired the traditional New England clam bake today. Lobsters in early America were so plentiful that they were often fed to slaves, prisoners, and apprentices during the colonial era. By the 1880s, lobsters had shed most of its negative reputation and began to turn into the delicacy that it is today. This was in part because Boston and New York diners had given the dish some limelight, and because they are becoming increasingly harder to catch. Today, lobster has a stable population and is enjoyed by restaurants all over the world. So here we're going to be making a quick Cajun spice that will require 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of thyme, 3 teaspoons of paprika, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Okay, so now that we got the vegetables and the Cajun seasoning prepped, we got our big beautiful guy over here, and when you pick these dudes up, you always want to cross the claws like this and just hold them gently like this, because these will actually break your fingers, especially this one. This claw is the crusher, this one is the pincher, and it's actually got a little muscle. Let's take that off then. But this is for like tearing and shredding prey, and then this is the big clamp for crushing like bones and stuff. So let's get to it. We're gonna be steaming him, and luckily for these guys, they don't feel too much pain. So actually, really none at all. They don't even really have like an actual brain. It's just a bundle of ganglia. And all right, we're gonna toss him in. All right, now that he's been cooking for like 8 minutes, we're gonna throw some of the seasoning in. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the content and the history behind lobster. So let's dig in. What makes a dish of lobster so unique and special to you?
Well, I caught it for one, and it just tastes so good.